welcome. Thank you for joining us for How She Does It in a Year of Ambiguity. My name is Veronica Utami. I lead the Google marketing team for Indonesia, Philippines, and the Next Billion Users Initiative in Southeast Asia. And I'm excited to be your MC for today. We have a great agenda ahead. But before we get started, please let us know that you're here by filling out the form in the event description below or scanning the QR code here. We encourage you to hashtag your social media posts with hashtag Google HSDI to join the conversation and share your thoughts on the event. So, what is How She Does It? How She Does It is an event powered by Women at Google, one of our employee resource groups, also known as ERGs. It's inclusive of all, regardless of gender identity. And this is our 5th year of How She Does It, which features distinguished women, leaders, entrepreneurs, parents, authors, and innovators, amongst others, sharing their life stories to inspire and connect with people of all ages. This year's theme is How She Does It in a Year of Ambiguity. And we will be highlighting stories of women navigating this year's challenges. One of the benefits of this virtual climate is the ability to share these experiences without limitation of location. And we're happy to welcome you from wherever you are today. We also have the live chat box on YouTube where you can interact with some of our Googlers and each other. So please don't be shy and leave us your comments. We have an exciting lineup of speakers, both inside and outside of Google, with phenomenal stories. First up, we have Madhuri Duggirala, Senior Director of Media Ops from Google, and one of our APAC Women at Leads, sharing her journey and involvement in Women at Google. Over to you, Madhuri.
Thank you, Veronica. Hi, everyone. My name is Madhuri Duggirala. I can't believe 2020 is not relenting. It's quite an year of challenge, crisis, and ambiguity. That really reminds me of my personal story, which I wanted to share with all of you, because my personal life is what made me resilient today. If I have to describe myself in one line, I'm an engineer by profession, a singer by passion, globetrotter by interest, and a social volunteer by choice. I grew up in a low middle class family that struggled to meet ends every month. From middle school to high school to undergrad, the financial situation of my family became harder. Through several scholarships and donations, I could pursue my undergrad and chase my dream of becoming a computer science engineer despite several obstacles. My education helped me learn how to learn, and that learning continues even at work today. I get to do complex business problems with the gamut of technologies and products at our disposal. I've been very, very fortunate to be part of innovative solutions and services to keep pace of the changing industry and business. But let me tell you one thing. Being the only woman and the first woman was very hard for me. Anything could have gone right or wrong. And that continued in my professional life as well. For example, being the only woman on the on-site engineering team, only woman in the leadership team, only Indian in the team, only woman at an offsite, and so on. I had to push myself out of my comfort zone and enjoy the challenges which come along, and that is what made my life at work and home really worthwhile. I have built more resilience. I've learned to break stereotypes and be a trendsetter, and it made me believe even more an equal world is an enabled world. And I'm very active in ERG and DEI initiatives because my passion for diversity and more so on inclusion has exponentially increased in the last 2 decades because I would like us to move from only to many women. And I know this will always be possible with perseverance, resilience, and passion. This year, when I was thinking of the team, How She Does It, I couldn't help but think how she does it in a year of ambiguity. Many women have created history and they have become inspiring role models for the current and future generations. Each one of those have set the trend of done something new, either in challenges or transformation or crisis. I've always believed I am an ordinary woman, but but I've done extraordinary things. I feel, be it an ordinary or an extraordinary woman, we are capable and we do extraordinary things to fight all the odds and bring a change in our lives, in societies. These stories of unwavering faith, extraordinary grit, and quest to help ourselves and others, they're awe-inspiring. I believe that every woman and every underrepresented community person with their passion and purpose are capable of setting new trends and being a role model and a trendsetter. And today, I am very excited that we have many such extraordinary stories shared by women, and I'm so excited to hear from them. I'd like to invite Roman Matla, our Google APAC Director of Diversity and Employee Engagement, who's a strong advocate and an ally to us, to share his story.
Thanks very much, Madhuri. Hi, everyone. My name is Roman Matla, and I'm the Director of APAC Diversity and Employee Engagement, a role that I'm thrilled to be in and a company I've been hoping to work for many years. My diversity, equity, and inclusion journey began as a child. My brother and I were first-generation Canadians born to immigrant parents who came to Canada as refugees from war-torn Europe. My inspiration for empathy, understanding, and inclusion came from my maternal grandmother. She was my hero. She taught me the importance of listening, forgiveness, and tenacity. And that's when I learned what real allyship was. She taught me what accepting and supporting differences meant. She also had a wicked sense of humor and taught me the importance of not taking everything too seriously. All these lessons and more I've tried to pass on to my children, in maybe not the exact same way, but with a heavy influence from my grandmother and a good dose of laughter. One might wonder, well, why allyship? I look at it in very simple terms. Gender doesn't define ability or assign superiority. I've always looked at people as equals in terms of what they can accomplish. Having a 10-year-old daughter has also helped me realize that as a man, my historical gender privilege leaves me with an obligation to ensure I do everything I can to ensure she and her opportunities are not defined by her gender, but rather by her intellect, her skill, her empathy, and her heart. But it's not just fathers, right? It's partners, brothers, uncles, cousins, friends, and acquaintances that can also stand in solidarity and back gender equality and break down stereotypes and historical bias. In a year of ambiguity like 2020, it's really important for everyone to lean in as allies for each other, regardless of gender. And most importantly, it's not just at work, it's everywhere we show up. You see, we're not all in the same boat, so to speak, but we're all in the same storm. And that storm is raging across many parts of the world, causing untold damage. It's time to lend a helping hand wherever we can, being present, being empathetic, listening, learning, and engaging. When we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's inclusion that's most critical in times like these. With all of this in mind, thank you so much for allowing me to be part of this amazing event. And I can't wait to hear the personal stories from all the inspiring women across Asia Pacific. Over to you, Veronica.
Thank you, Roman and Madhuri, for welcoming the audience and sharing your heartwarming stories. I truly agree that in this time of global uncertainty and ambiguity, it's even more important for us to learn from each other and to be allies that help women in different sectors shine. That's exactly why we are all here together today. And now I'd like to welcome Googler Marcia Chen, who is part of our Google Customer Solutions team, to share her personal story about her experience as COVID started in China. Over to you, Marcia.
Thank you, Veronica. Hi, everyone. This is Marcia tuning from China. Ni hao. I'm very glad to be here to share with you my story. My story is about overcoming my fear and my fear of not being good enough, my fear of not being ready enough to do something I always want to do. And COVID-19, this disruption in the world has helped me to tap into this fear and also unlock my potentiality. So my story starts with the quarantine experience. I was quarantined around in Shanghai for 80 days. And I went through a roller coaster of emotions during that time. At the beginning, I feel really sad and sometimes guilty about me staying safe, having food, having shelter, while as the medical workers, they are risking their lives. And I also feel helpless because I don't know where it goes. But then, because I know it's not going to be end soon, so I start to pace myself and use yoga meditation to tune myself into another stage. And at that time, I received a call from my friend in Nepal. She asked me if I can share my experience and tips of staying safe, staying well during quarantine to her people in Nepal through a magazine. I was really nervous, and I thought of saying no because I don't think I can ever do that. English is not my mother tongue. I never wrote an essay or article that is published in newspaper or magazine. And I never thought I'm ready enough to inspire other people with my daily practices. But then back then I was reading a book called Surrender Experiment. It says amazing things always happen in our lives. And what we need to do is to say yes to life, and by putting down our judgment of likes and dislikes. So I think, okay, let me just give a try. And I started to say yes to life, to try that opportunity. So I sat down and wrote the article, and it got published on Nepali Times. And on top of that, I also shared my article in the Google internal meditation community. And after email, I received 300 plus email globally from all the colleagues. And they were telling me this is so inspiring and touches their heart. And they also feel the authenticity and the vulnerability behind. So it really helped them shift the perspective of seeing COVID-19 only as a danger, but not as an opportunity. So, and after that, I was also being invited by New Zealand and Australian colleagues to share my experience with people in their country to help them go into the quarantine experience. And then I end up turning my sharing into a course internally, and helps globally more than 1,000 Googlers to prepare them mentally and emotionally with this challenge. So if I look back now, I think I won't do anything like this, being able to write an article that had impacts on thousands of people and inspire people with the course I designed myself. If I was not saying yes to life, if I was being stopped by the fears that I hold in my heart. So here, I really want to share with you the biggest takeaway is that sometimes we are really powerful beyond our imagination. And I think a poem perfectly depicts that. I want to share with you. It's called Our Deepest Fear. Our deepest fear is not we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. And when we let our own light shine unconsciously, we are also giving other people permission to do the same. And when we are liberating ourselves from the fears, our presence automatically liberates others. This poem has been very inspiring for me because I have always thinking about I'm not being enough. Doesn't have any labels. I'm a nobody. So it's really hard for me to step forward and make an impact on others. But this poem really inspired me that I need to tune into my own potentiality and the power within, and to start to trust to me. And by actually doing that, I realized when I started to let my own light shine, my friends around me, they saw what I did for the company, for a broader community. They think, wow, Marsha can do this, and Marsha is like me. We are ordinary people together. If she can do this, what else can I do in my life, in my company? So this ended up being very inspiring for my friends around me. So I think COVID-19 definitely present a lot of challenges to us in terms of how it disrupts the ways we are living, but also I think it gives us opportunity to see things in different perspectives, and also the opportunity to spend more time with ourselves and tap into the power we have within ourselves. Instead of feeling inadequate, instead of being held back by the fears we have in our hearts, I hope my story can inspire you to start to say yes to life. And by saying yes to life, life is going to lead you to a journey that is beyond your imagination. And so that's my story. I hope my personal experience and authenticity could be inspiring to you in a way, and for you to start to do something meaningful in your life. Thank you. Over to you, Veronica.
Wow, Marcia, thank you for the inspiring poem and also for sharing your key learnings during such uncertain times. It's amazing that you were able to help over 1,000 people and continue your impact throughout nature. Next, we have Jemima Wei, writer, host, and travel blogger from Singapore, who will be sharing her journey during the pandemic. Welcome, Jemima.
Hi everyone, my name is Jemima Wei, and thanks for coming to listen to me today. I'm going to be talking about how 2020 was the worst year of my life. Now, I know that I'm not alone in this. I know that this year has been astounding for so many people on so many levels, but this is just my story. So about me, I am a very idealistic type A person. What this means is I've always had big dreams, and I'm all about making a plan to get there. And the biggest dream of all for a very long time was pursuing my MFA in a bid to be a writer. I learned about MFA programs back in 2010, and at that point, there was 0 English language MFA programs anywhere in Asia. You would basically have to go to the UK or the US. So, after my A-levels, I studied for and took my SATs, and I qualified for most of the colleges I had my eyes on, the main one being Columbia University in New York. But then, I did the math. As someone from a low middle class background like me, we just couldn't afford it. I saw my friends leave one by one for universities all around the world, starting their lives and their adventures. And at that point, it just seemed like it wasn't possible for someone like me. I think at 18 was the first time I came face to face with the fact that maybe you can work so hard, but some cards are always going to be stacked against you. But at that point, I still believe that you can make a plan for anything. It just might take longer to get there. So I moved on. At 21, I pivoted to content creation and hosting, which paid the bills while working all the time on my writing in private. It was a very new industry back then, and it was very challenging and very exciting. I did this full-time throughout my university, so my undergrad and my master's. And so at my peak, I was actually, teaching in the university, writing my thesis on airplanes. I was flying off to shoot travel shows over the weekend in between classes. I was coming back, writing screens for screenplays. And then late at night in my private time, I would be working on these honestly very embarrassing short stories in retrospect. But no matter how difficult it was and no matter how tired I got, I was always so excited and so happy because I had a plan and I knew that I was working towards it. And then last year, I finally applied and got accepted to my dream school, Columbia University in New York, and I funded it with a combination of 2 scholarships and a huge chunk of my personal savings. This was almost 10 years after I set my sights on it for the first time. And let me tell you, it felt so good. I felt so proud of myself. I gave up everything here in Singapore. I postponed my wedding. I stopped a very lucrative career path. I said bye to all my family and friends, and I moved to New York to pursue writing. And it was very difficult, but I was so happy. And then you already know, the global pandemic hit. I think that was the first time in my life I couldn't even formulate a plan. Everything was out of my control, but also out of my comprehension. School went online first, so okay, fine. Then slowly, things were shutting down left and right in my neighborhood. Ambulances were screaming outside my door every single day. New York very quickly became the global epicenter of the pandemic. Everyone I knew was messaging me, like, what are you going to do? Have you seen this news article? Like, are you going to come home? What's going to happen? And then I was just like, overwhelmed. I was like, stop asking me, it's too much, because I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. And then half my housemates disappeared overnight. They lost jobs, they lost family, they had to go home. My last remaining housemate and I sat down one evening and we just looked at each other like, what are we going to do? We didn't know. We were still joking about the fact that, we were one of those households that listened to the government and didn't panic buy toilet paper. And suddenly there was no toilet paper anywhere. It was like ridiculous. And then I got an email from the Singapore government asking me to consider coming home. When I left New York, I thought I would be gone for 1 month, 2 months max. But today it's been 8 months. And this time, every single day, something new and horrible was being thrown at me. Personal bad news, school policy changes, new statistics, quarantine, lockdown, still paying rent on an apartment with my hard-earned savings even though I'm not there. My visa being called into question and then being valid because they couldn't decide what they wanted to do with internationals. And to be honest, I couldn't deal with it. I just could not understand why a once-in-a-century pandemic had to happen now, just as I was finally getting everything that I've worked so hard for. I felt like the world was just messing with me. I was so overwhelmed by stress, but more than that, I think I was overwhelmed also by this immense, all-consuming disappointment. And then just as everything in the world started shutting down, so did I. The name of this talk is How She Does It. Well, I wanted to come here today to tell you that sometimes she don't does it. Sometimes she gets under the blankets, has 3 panic attacks a day, and starts binge eating pasta. And sometimes things are just too much. I think I'm coming to terms with the fact that maybe sometimes that's okay. The thing about this pandemic is that we're being fed global catastrophic levels of grief every single day. I mean, the other day I woke up and California was literally on fire. And it feels so stupid and so selfish to be having a hard time when you're safe at home and you have a stable internet connection, which is more than so many people can say. If you're a type A person like me in this disastrous year, you're probably having a really hard time. Beyond the fact that it feels so impossible to even try and work towards any kind of future because something giant might happen and knock it all out of your control again, it can feel like, compared to what's going on in the world out there, your personal disappointment and your grief is so trivial and shouldn't be taking up space. But too bad, because they do. Some days it really feels like everyone is saying, hey, chin up, it's not that bad. Things could be a lot worse. Look on the bright side, pull yourself up and get back on track. Make a new plan. But I'm starting to realize that you don't owe anyone that except yourself. And right now, maybe taking care of yourself needs to be the plan. Because if you don't allow yourself to have a hard time, your body doesn't process that and you don't get better. I really wanted to come here today to say that you don't have to be positive. You don't have to be operating at 100% right now. You just have to be. And that's how I'm trying to do it. Thanks for listening, everyone. Back to you, Veronica.
Thank you, Jemima, for sharing your experience during this roller coaster year and the message that it's okay not to be okay. Congratulations on getting into your dream school, and we hope that you're able to continue your journey in Colombia. Continuing the program, we have our first of 2 Firesides chats today. We have Amanda Jordan, who is a co-director alongside Jennifer Delbell, managing director of an amazing certified social enterprise called Downlights New Zealand that employs young Kiwis with Down syndrome and learning or intellectual disabilities to offer them meaningful work opportunities. For every candle sold, they donate $1 to the New Zealand Down Syndrome Association. They're here to discuss their challenges and accomplishments during this pandemic. Now, over to Amanda and Jennifer.
Kia ora, everyone. I'm Amanda Jordan, and as well as working for Google New Zealand in the team for the last 10 years, I am also a director at Downlights New Zealand. Downlights is a New Zealand-owned certified social enterprise that employs young Kiwis with Down syndrome, learning or intellectual disabilities, and offers them meaningful work opportunities to create beautiful candles like these. We also pay the living wage to every single one of our team members from day one. 2020 has been a phenomenal roller coaster of a year for Downlights. We kicked off with a new e-commerce website, a new director, yours truly, following a wholesale investment round. Today, we're here with Downlights founder and managing director, Jennifer Delbell. Jennifer is a Kiwi, having lived in New Zealand for a significant portion of her life, although she was born in Canada. She's also the creative genius behind the Downlights product and fragrance range, of which we have just launched a new one for Christmas. Today, I'm hosting a chat with Jennifer to share our 2020 story, both professionally and personally. Life gives you lessons, and I think that's especially true of this year. So I'm looking forward to sharing our story. Jennifer, I'd love to start with the capital raise, which for the audience, for context, we launched the same day Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern shut New Zealand down with COVID-19. Jen, we had the do we or don't we conversation. Tell us about the launch and the subsequent campaign.
What a day that was. We had the initial day for launch was on a Monday, and we had balloons organized, all of the crew organized to come to have a Facebook Live to launch what we expected to be a 48-hour successful campaign for the maximum amount of capital that we needed for Downlights to optimally perform over the next 2 years. And we actually had to delay the launch by 2 days. So there was 6 months of intensive preparation, marketing campaigns, planning, put into a very strong strategy that was a COVID-free strategy. So it was an incredibly sad day, but also a day where we dug deep as people for the cause that we were fighting for and just made a very strong commitment to push forward.
Yeah, I think that was really important. That was something that drove me, because we're fighting for the people that deserve it the most. But there were positives as well. And this year, I think more than ever, we need positive stories. And look, from my point of view, COVID meant I was more present than I ever would have been. For example, last year, I was in New Zealand for 6.5 out of every 10 days for the year. And between February, when I became a director, and June, when the capital raise closed, I was actually only in New Zealand for 3 out of 10 days. It wouldn't have worked. We found support and built relationships with businesses that we probably would never have spoken to otherwise. People like Pat McFly at Manaki. And for me as the marketer, somewhat frustratingly, because my goal was to find investors. After all of the campaigning, after all of the publicity, Downlights emerged from COVID lockdown with stronger sales than ever. And I know that you found that funny in a dark kind of way. And it's something that right now I'm really proud of. Like, Facebook is humming, Google Shopping is humming, sales is humming, and our new range is live. And that is no mean feat this year. It's something I should both be really proud of. Look, I know I've worked with thousands of small businesses, and I know most small business owners believe that their business is truly different, but Downlights is truly unlike anything I've ever seen. Despite missing the most important trade show of the year because of COVID, we've had a successful capital raise. We've got a new manufacturing premises. We've got a new product range. Buy now for Christmas. Most excitingly, we've got new staff members. And Downlights was the recipient of the Diversity Award of 2020 for breaking barriers. Jen, this year's been tough for us at times though, right? And we've had those phone calls. I know personally I've achieved the most amazing things, but I'll be the first to admit that my well-being's taken a tumble as well. I need to spend far more time with my husband, more time with my parents, wine intake, vegetable intake. I've done zero yoga. I didn't get to host a fireside chat with Lorraine Toohill at Engage APAC. and it's made me buckle at times. Tell us about the challenges for you.
Well, the challenges for me personally were similar, Amanda. My fitness really dropped, but most importantly, the time that I would have had with my children, I just haven't had because I've been so busy managing the growth of the business, which is a wonderful thing. I'm not complaining about that, but I do miss the time that I would typically have with my kids. But there were also challenges that I wasn't expecting, and that was the moods of the young adults that work with us, because they had quite intense feelings of insecurity for their jobs and for their future. And there is a general awareness in the disability sector that they are the first to be affected by any changes in the economy. So we had a lot of Zoom sessions booked with the Downlights crew to help keep their spirits up. And once we got back to work, there was a change in the way they worked for the first month. It was almost as though they had to start over again. And I hadn't really planned for that. So it was a new beginning again, and we consolidated and moved forward, but their fragility became much more apparent to me than what I actually realized before. And their incredible resilience and determination just really shone through. And that for me was inspiring and humbling.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like for me, I think for most people, structure is important. But what does structure mean for the Downlights crew?
It's everything. They like routine. For them, knowing that they're doing the same thing every week and that they're in a safe environment every week, and seeing what they're like when they're meeting someone new, someone different, when everything is normal, and then seeing what they're like in this situation with people wearing face masks and, you know, people having to have social distancing. And I think of Miles, Amanda, you know, are we allowed to hug yet, or are we just on elbows? It's been, I think, a much more traumatic change for them than it has for many of us. So
yeah, you're right. No, you're absolutely right. And it was one of the eye openers for me, was how fast people with disabilities lost their seat at the table, like if they ever had one in the first place. And I was horrified. Full disclosure for the audience, two of the employees are my cousins, which is how I found out about this and why I got involved. Last question. Jen, I think you and I are similar, which can be dangerous at times. Like, we're all in, and sometimes that can take its toll. But I will always remember this quote from Brene Brown, who is something of a hero of mine, when she did a talk for Google Woman in Chicago. And somehow in the link or something, we will make sure that to get the YouTube link for that, because it's a phenomenal talk. And I have got so many notes from this, and this one's actually on my wall. There's no greater threat to the critics and the cynics in this world than a woman who is willing to fall in the pursuit of being brave, because she has learnt how to get back up. And that's you in a sentence. That's me, and those are the values that I have. I will fight for people who didn't get dealt the same hand that I did, and that will take its toll. I will bring myself to my knees sometimes, but I know how to get back up. I've learnt, because I didn't know the first time. What can you tell me about resilience and learning how to pick yourself back up? What do you do? How do you do it?
Yeah, well, resilience is something that I have actually been taught, Amanda, through the crew. I think I've always been strong, but the people that work in Downlights have to be resilient every single day of their life. And the daily activities that they do, that we take for granted, has just given me an appreciation for absolutely every moment that I have. And time is so precious, and the people you surround yourself with should be precious and loving and amazing. And when you have that incredible support of people who are there for you and love you for who you are, you can be strong, absolutely strong. And I think that is a lot about what Downlights is about, that we're an incredible business to support people on their journey to independence. So that's probably
I completely agree. Completely agree. I think it's really important. You need to be very clear on who you let have an opinion. And I think the people that you surround yourself with is the most amazing thing. And these kids, the things I've seen since they were born is amazing. Can you give us an example of one of those? And I've got one in mind, and it's Kirsty. And I say that because the first day that I met the women at Google team organizing, I was unbelievably excited because she just achieved a major milestone.
Oh, the queen.
Like, this is the best day ever. Nothing better can happen.
Kirsty's so lovely. She's so gorgeous. Gentle soul. So quiet. And also the type of person who, if she's nervous, she actually really reverts into herself. She doesn't talk or reach out for help. So can you imagine being a young woman with Down syndrome and being 27 years old and taking 2 buses during a semi-lockdown to go to work independently by herself, completely and totally, for the first time in her life? That, for me, is unbelievable.
I'm so proud of her. I'm so this is why we do it. This is it's so strange. It's not what I expected, but
she's so proud of herself, even the way she carries herself. And Jack is like that too, the way he carries himself. And you speak with both of them, and it's pride. They're so happy with what they're doing and so proud of what they're doing. It just makes it all worthwhile. It's just incredible seeing them shine. Yeah.
So, Jen, that's all the questions that I have for you. But I truly believe everyone deserves to have a job that they are proud of and that they're proud to tell people about. I'm proud of both of my jobs, but I'm especially proud of this one. And I'm very proud of you as well, and our new Downlights crew members. So thank you. And Veronica, I'm going to pass back over to you.
Thanks, Veronica. Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you, Amanda and Jennifer, for your inspiring work on Downlights and for sharing these eye-opening stories. And if anyone's interested to buy their candles, you can check out the comments below and you'll be able to order them from there. Moving on to our next talk, we have Alice Chang, who used to be a Googler and is now focused on her own businesses. 2, in fact, the e-commerce platform Mommy Love and insurance matching site My83. She'll be sharing her journey of being an entrepreneur in a difficult time in Taiwan.
Hi, my name is Alice Chen. It's my honor to join today. I'm a mom and the founder and CEO of Mommy Love and My83. Mommy Love is the largest e-commerce for moms and family in Taiwan. And My83, its pronunciation in Chinese is similar to buying insurance. It's the leading online insurance service in Taiwan. Before moving back to Taiwan, I worked as partner technology manager on YouTube and Chromebook projects at Google Mountain View office. After I left Google, I traveled around the world and decided to move back to Taiwan for my family. However, I didn't find any company I wanted to work for, since Google is the only company I worked for full-time has set the bar too high. When I traveled around the world to South America and India alone by myself, I was fearless and nothing could scare me. However, it's my first time feeling vulnerable after I had my daughter. So I started my company when my daughter was only 4 months old. I wanted to build a company that has a mission and a great company culture as I experienced at Google. First, I started My83 when I needed to buy insurance for my daughter. I had no idea which insurance plan is right for us. Are we buying too little or too much? So I started a site to solve the information asymmetry in insurance buying. Soon I found the needs from new parents are even more. Parents spend a lot of time to find out what's right product for their kids and family, and moms are extremely busy. So I started Mommy Love. Mommy Love wants to become the most trusted platform for moms and family and save time for them. In mid-January this year, we noticed the sales of facial masks surge on Mommy Love site from Hong Kong, but we didn't know why. We looked it up online and found the news about Wuhan pneumonia before COVID-19 was named in southern China. Soon during Chinese New Year, the first case was confirmed in Taiwan. Throughout the new year, our team worked tirelessly to ensure we have enough supply of facial masks, disinfection products, and daily household supplies like diapers and tissue papers. Our site traffic was 10 times of normal low because of the panic from parents. But to be honest, I wasn't too worried about COVID-19 when it started in Taiwan. The government in Taiwan did a great job. They kept information transparent and react quickly. The government stopped the border and acquired mask machinery to level up the supply. They stopped exporting and levied facial masks and distributed through pharmacies to make sure everyone can get them. Life here in Taiwan is rather normal, except people have to wear masks on public transportation, and school never get closed. It just got postponed by 2 weeks after Chinese New Year. We are lucky to be the e-commerce sector that's benefit from people buying online, especially during the coronavirus. We import product from Japan, Korea, and overseas. The international shipping was delayed. However, we work with more than 1,000 brand distributors in Taiwan. Some of the brands got affected offline, so they transfer stock to our site. We help the brand to promote online to offset impact. I started my 83 insurance site before Mommy Love. The site was a two-site market to match the buyer with the agents. And the two-side market model means we have to get at least one side of user to get the service started. So I did a normal thing that you may hear in other startup stories. I searched online, collected over 100 agent contacts, and wrote email to them individually. In one of the emails, I got invited to a hiking event with a group of experienced insurance agents. I carried my MacBook Pro, hiked halfway to a pavilion with them, and demo of product. After the demo, they all seem very excited and say it's an awesome product. We'll definitely sign up. But guess what the conversion rate is? 0. You may think that sucks, but that's an aha moment for me. They are the group of traditional agents who relied on personal network to get customers. That's exactly the group we want to disrupt. Our early adopters should be the ones that grew up with internet and want to build a positive online reputation. I know the topic today is about how to navigate uncertainty in this particular year, but I would say facing uncertainty is definitely what startup does every day. Don't put your business in one basket. For example, domestic travel is one of our extended business lines. So when COVID started, the travel line got affected a lot. However, we have many other business lines to hedge the risk. Now, since people in Taiwan cannot travel abroad easily, the demand for domestic travel is booming and overheated. Doing startup as the founder is sometimes quite against human nature. I don't have one silver bullet to share. Whatever I say, it's already covered in other startup articles. Instead, I would like to share one of my favorite quotes from the book, The Hard Thing About Hard Things, Building a Business When There Are No Easy Answers by Ben Horowitz. Great CEOs face the pain, they deal with sleepless nights and cold sweats, and you may call it torture. Whenever I meet a successful CEO, I ask them how they did it. Mediocre CEO point to their brilliant strategic moves and their intuitive business sense, and a variety of other self-congratulatory explanations. The great CEO tend to be remarkably consistent in their answers. They all say, I didn't quit. That's my sharing for today. Thanks for having me. Over to you, Veronica.
Thanks, Alice, for sharing your story about how entrepreneurs deal with ambiguity every single day. Next up, we have Tanisa Dhingra sharing her brave story of battling cancer during this pandemic. Tanisa is part of our planning team from India. We're very appreciative of you, Tanisa, for not only helping us plan today's event, but also for sharing your story so openly. Over to you.
Thank you, Veronica. Hi, everyone. My name is Tanisa Dhingra, and I am a cancer survivor. I thought for hours on how I wanted to begin this talk, but I thought getting this one line out of the way just sets context. Because that's not what the story is about. It's about what happened after. In 2016, I was 23 years old, a fresh-faced Googler, a millennial, ready to take on the world by its horns, with that over-eager enthusiasm that the 20s gives you in its droves. A random stomachache that we thought was infection turned into a couple of weeks of testing, which in turn turned into an emergency flight to the United States. I had been diagnosed with stage 3 ovarian cancer. What I had previously thought would be a short trip turned out to be 10 months and a multitude of experiences. Some new, most painful, but all overwhelming. I went through 7 rounds of chemotherapy and a 10-hour-long surgery to remove my orange-sized tumors. But believe it or not, throughout that entire time, I never lost hope. I remained the cheerful person that I am, and I never dropped that smile. In fact, I even took trips across US, and I visited all these beautiful places. I vowed to myself that when I returned, I would start working for cancer patients. I also promised myself that I would remain so healthy that I would never have to see this situation once again. In fact, I did just that. Giving back to cancer patients became my way of life and my mission. I started organizing events for them, and each one of them was attended by over 100 patients and survivors. All of them were also covered in national news. I started writing articles about my journey. I started visiting corporates and schools to give cancer awareness talks. I also started counseling cancer patients. In short, I became the best version of myself. At work, I immersed myself in projects. I got promoted. I moved teams and roles. And in 2019, I found myself a team that organizes events just like this one today. I started exploring conversations with them right away, hunting for roles, but nothing came through. In 2020, the pandemic arrived. And I won't go into the details of how terrible it has been because each one of us is living our own version of it. It was in May of this year that I went for my routine scans, and something just didn't feel right. That old, niggling feeling came back, and a couple of weeks of testing and a biopsy later, I heard that one thing that I never thought I would. My cancer had relapsed, and I needed to begin treatment once again. This time, however, I just couldn't find the cheerful person within myself. I couldn't fathom the gravity of the situation. I just couldn't understand how it was fair that in spite of doing everything right, it had come back. In fact, I couldn't even visit my doctor in US because out of all the times in the world, the cancer had chosen the pandemic to return. Now here's what happened in the whirlwind of the 2 months that followed. In June, my doctor from US suggested a new trial drug with great results, so we set him up with conference calls with my doctor here in India. Mysteriously, the same drug was launched in India in April, just a month before my diagnosis. Remember the events team that I spoke to you about? They reached out in July for a 6-month rotation after a year of looking for opportunities with them. It was everything that I ever wanted, but I still was skeptical to take it up. Because I knew that with my declining health, a new role with ramping up, putting in extra hours of work might be difficult. In fact, I would also have to connect with all the team members because this team sits across 5 different countries in 5 different time zones. I wondered, was I ready for it? This time, however, the pandemic worked for me. This team involves a lot of travel because events are in different places. But because everything had moved to a virtual platform, I could sit at the comfort of my house and continue treatment. I felt a surge of excitement and encouragement. and I was determined that I wouldn't let my illness act as a hindrance. However, the rush didn't last long. Let me paint a picture for you. You have joined a new team and a role and you want to create an impression, but you don't have the confidence to put on your camera because your face is full of acne and rashes. You're sitting in meetings, but you have so much physical pain from the deeply infected and bleeding toes, fingernails, and nose that you just want to scream. Your hair is falling off in chunks, so it constantly looks messy. And your tongue is so full of ulcers that you cannot talk or even eat without a numbing cream. It was the stuff of nightmares, and every day was a struggle. A small flight of stairs would leave me winded, and I started to wonder if I would be able to cope up. At this point, at my very lowest of low, I returned to my old Tanisa for inspiration. In 2016, when I went bald, I remembered how I'd embraced it that I even did a bald is beautiful photo shoot. I had realized that how physical appearance is so trivial and we have so much more to us than just that. I remember the friends and family who I had reached out to for support, but because of the lockdown, I couldn't bring them in. So this time, I looked inside myself for that inner determination and strength, for that inner beauty and that inner potential that all of us have, but we often lack to tap. So the last few months, I've done just that. I've immersed myself in work with a cheerful face back on. I've never wanted pity or sympathy. I've continued to work for others. I conducted webinars for cancer patients. I also raised money for 100 migrant workers who were affected because of COVID, all with the confines of my house. I believe in karma and in doing good for others. I believe it truly comes back to you. And the evidence lies in the medicine that helps me every day, curiously appearing just a month before my diagnosis, or in the opportunity that I've gotten to work with the team that I'm so excited for, or in a new promotion that I've just received while we speak. There isn't a conclusion to my story yet, and I'm still undergoing treatment. I don't know when I'll be cured. In fact, I don't even know what tomorrow looks like for me. But here's what I have to say. You can look at the glass half full, or you can look at it glass half empty. But I challenge the status quo and I say, how do you fill it? I look at the positive side. Yes, we have a pandemic, but it affords me the luxury of working from home. Yes, my daily life is a struggle, but we have so much to be grateful for. Yesterday, I walked to the bathroom without anybody's help. Today, I'm talking to you without any pain. Tomorrow, who knows? These are things that I have stopped taking for granted. All of us are wound up in issues and struggles that are ought to subside with time. There is no point of a life without struggles. So till then, I just want to say it's okay to not be okay. Accept that, move on, and live life to the fullest, and always look at the sunny side up. There are parts of my life that I can't influence, but I always make up for all the others. I love my work. I love being with my team. I add value to the society, and I look forward to the day on most days. So, in the end, if you ask me how she does it, I'd say she does it with a smile. I'm an inherently happy person, you see, somebody who'll genuinely smile at you from afar. And despite my story, and maybe because of it, I'm glad that I've managed to preserve that. Thank you so much, and over to you, Veronica.
You're such an inspiration and a strong woman, Tanisa. It's such a pleasure to work with you and wishing you all the best. Now, for our last talk before closing, we have a fireside chat with Sayumi-san from Google Japan and Mari-san from Takeda Consumer Healthcare. They'll be sharing how COVID impacted their lives, as well as their children's lives, especially during work from home. Over to you both.
Hello, Mari.
Hello.
Thank you very much for joining How She Does It fireside chat with me. To start, let us introduce ourselves. I'm Sayumi Hiroki, working at Google Japan as a head of industry. I'm managing ad sales teams, and Mari's company, Takeda Consumer Healthcare, is one of our biggest customers. We've known each other since we both worked at Procter & Gamble for the same brand SK2. I am a mother of 2 kids, a 2-year boy and a 5-year girl. Mari, please give us a quick introduction of yourself.
Yep. Hello, I'm Mayuri Nogami, President of Takeda Consumer Healthcare, which is an affiliated company to Takeda Pharma, mother of 2 kids, 19-year-old daughter and a 16-year-old son.
Thank you, Mari. So, under COVID, how did it impact your life, especially in parenting? For me, it was tough because during the lockdown period, the daycare shut down for 3 months. So I needed to take care of my kids at home by playing with them, preparing for lunch, bedding down, and work. I was fully fatigued every day. But I realized I was still lucky because Google changed to full remote work at the early stage of COVID. And my husband, who worked at a different company, was also allowed for remote work. So we could somehow manage the situation. How about your case?
Yeah, normally I commute from my home in Osaka to Tokyo by Shinkansen bridge train for 3 hours on Monday, come home on Friday and work away from home. With COVID-19, since April, I work mostly from my home in Osaka and spend the most time with my family in all my life.
Wow.
As my kids are quite independent, I did not need to take care too much of them other than cooking, different from Sayumi. And we all joined online schooling or business meetings in different rooms.
Wow. In all your life, you spend the most time with your family. Nice. Thanks to COVID. It might be a positive aspect of this kind of experience for me too.
Yep.
I also encouraged my team members who were under similar situations to block Google Calendar for childcare even during working hours and adjust each capacity. I told them that we could adjust our workload or expectations if needed. For my case, while I had a new member onboarding under my responsibility, my boss did it instead of me and supported it during the period. I really appreciated his support and shared it with my team members to notify them. Supporting each other really happened even between bosses. Then, within my team, they proactively helped each other, for example, in urgent inquiries from our customers. Those who could respond early took them. We really worked with flexibilities and supporting each other mindset.
I have employees who have small kids like you, Sayumi, and their team members made it okay for kids to appear sometimes at online meetings during lockdown period. I talked about this to other teams too, so that teams can flexibly decide what can work for them and also can pay more attention to individual needs much more than before.
Yeah. So, by the way, did you find any challenges in schooling of your kids? In the lockdown period, many schools shut down and gradually started online. Was it easy for them to get used to it?
No, my kids had challenges. My daughter started her freshman year online, and she has never been to campus in Tokyo area and still does not have friends from university. My son started his first year at high school. His school started online and then moved to normal schooling, but he now faces challenges to go to school every day emotionally. He could not keep motivating himself to go to school when going to school was not necessarily a regular habit for him yet. We cannot necessarily blame COVID-19 for his challenge, but believe irregular school start did impact him.
Yeah, I can imagine how difficult it was to start a new life stage online.
Yeah.
I also have a member in my team who joined Google in April. We did all the interviews online too. So have never met each other. By the way, how did you cope with COVID as a business leader? Any changes you made at your company? For me, we usually sell ad solutions. However, during COVID, many customers faced challenges and some of them had marketing budget reductions. Given the situation, our sales team put supporting customers as the first priority and adjusted our teams and individual objectives and goals to help our customers to survive the unprecedented time.
Wow.
Yep. The team was highly motivated by doing the right things for our customers. For example, frequently sharing data to indicate consumer sentiments in a timely manner, or holding webinars to help them adapt to COVID in terms of working systems, website content, or creatives, etc. How about your case?
Takeda encouraged work at home from the beginning, but given we are dealing with pharmaceuticals, we do have essential workers who, for example, work at the manufacturing factory to produce medicine, and the company changed quite a few rules to accommodate new ways of working, such as commuting by car or bicycle and commuting at off-peaks. We did have lots of paperwork and paper approvals, but the team developed ways to move it to digital quickly so that we can dramatically reduce the needs to go to office. Still, less than 10% of employees come to office, and we do work mostly online.
I thought it was challenging to implement remote work for those who were not used to it.
Yeah, actually, to my surprise, even relatively senior members could adjust themselves by getting help from younger team members.
Wow, that's nice.
Yep.
Yeah. But I heard your company's stock ownership was changed. So did you have any special care for the employees?
Yeah, that exactly happened. Stock ownership moved from Takeda Pharma to a fund, Blackstone, and we needed to make both internal announcement and external press conference by online. The employees' anxiety was quite high, and we increased the frequency of communication and also ways such as town hall meetings, small team meetings, and one-on-ones. We also regularly take questions if employees get used to online work environment and if they feel lonely. And we know still about 1/3 of employees feel loneliness, which we took quite seriously and discussed how we can help them. It's a new challenge for everybody, and we do not have perfect answers yet. We, for example, discuss whether we should host an online casual coffee time or even drink time, but whether it will become rather enforcement to employees, etc. And we want to keep exploring different ways to connect among ourselves.
Yeah, great point. We need to take care of emotions and mental well-being with such a big organization change, especially in this remote situation. Yeah. So in the 10 months, the world dramatically changed. We are encouraged by your story to embrace changes and continue to seek for better ways to cope with them. Thank you very much, Mari.
Thank
for
you.
joining us today. Yes. And back to you, Veronica.
Thank you, Sayumi-san and Mari-san, for sharing your experiences during this time. I completely resonate with the challenges of living in a pandemic with children at home. I have 9 and 11-year-old boys, and it's been such a blessing to be able to spend so much time with them each day. Today's talks have been such an inspiration. Learning from so many women who have shown such strength and perseverance in each of their challenging situations this year gives me hope that this storm that we're going through right now may just be an opportunity for each of us to become the best versions of ourselves. And to close our event today, we now have Caesar Sengupta, our very own Vice President of Payments and the Next Billion Users Initiative, or also known as NBU. Google's mission has always been to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. Google's NBU initiative aims to further its mission of creating a more inclusive internet by creating products and features that are tailored to the needs of people in countries where they experience the internet mobile first and also have data, network, and hardware constraints. Caesar is here to help close our day by discussing how technology is helping to enable and support women.
Thank you, Veronica. Hello, everyone. And thank you to everyone who has helped put this event together. It's so good to see everybody coming together on this important topic. This has been a really challenging year. And the personal stories that were shared today by the Googlers and their guests who have adapted, overcome, and thrived has been so inspiring. And it's been such a privilege to hear these stories of how people have overcome tremendous challenges through the year while continuing to power on ahead. As I talk to my own teams, I've been constantly amazed by the resilience of many Googlers, especially women, in adjusting to working from home, balancing care for loved ones while continuing to execute at work. But this responsibility shouldn't just be on individuals alone to be powerful and resilient. As a team and as an organization, we need to make sure that we are providing an empowering environment for all our people. Research shows that a diverse and inclusive workplace environment is good for innovation, productivity, job satisfaction, and retention. On the NBO and payments team, we've been focused on increasing representation of our teams and doing our best to support our underrepresented colleagues. And we've also tried to make a deliberate effort to listen and build communities to support our Googlers through various initiatives like mentorship programs, listening sessions, hiring practices, and community building. But even while we invest in making our teams more inclusive and resilient, it's also important to think about communities outside Google and how we can make the internet, and especially our products, work better for all our users. We have a project on the NBU team called Horizons, which is led by our UX research team, which works on understanding gender equity in our products. And this team has done a ton of research into online experiences of women across 7 NBU countries, producing insights for an equitable product design that can be shared across Google. These insights, some of which confirm beliefs that we've had for a while, that include things like the proportion of men using the internet is higher than women in 2/3 of the countries around the world. Gender inequity exists online just as it does in the physical world, sadly. In many cases, women aren't able to access the internet when, where, and how they want, even if they own their own devices. Many don't have enough free time, while others don't have permission. And where women can access the internet, many don't find meaningful content. And for many women, harassment, online and offline, creates a space where they don't feel fully in control of their online identities. Cyberstalking, malicious editing, and the fear of strangers sharing personal content without consent can result in destroyed reputations and even physical harm. So all of us, especially those of us on product teams, should be thinking deeply about how our work can help women and other digitally underrepresented groups access the internet on their own terms. On the NBU team, we recently launched a new site called nextbillionusers.google, where we're trying to share our tools and resources that we've built up over the years to help innovators around the world build more inclusive products for everyone. Finally, just want to acknowledge how challenging a year this has been for everyone. A year in which we've all had to navigate ambiguity and uncertainty. It's especially highlighted systemic issues in our society related to how we show up and support our underrepresented communities. And it's very important that we acknowledge that gender diversity and minority empowerment is just not there yet. We still have a lot of work to do. And how we show up as allies to our colleagues and friends is now more important than ever. This is why I'm making a commitment to continue mentoring, sponsoring, and creating space to allow women and other underrepresented groups, both across my team and externally, to thrive. Thank you again for this opportunity to speak to all of you. Thank you for organizing this, and thank you to all the brave speakers who shared their personal experiences today. With that, over to you, Veronica. Thank you so much.
Wow, today's session has been eye-opening and inspirational for me. We hope you all enjoyed tuning in and spending time with us. Today's circumstances are indeed ambiguous and challenging, but one thing is certain, we can persevere through these times. We're not always going to be okay, but we can lean on each other, our family, friends, our support system, and just keep going. I want to thank all the speakers today, everyone who helped make this event happen, and especially all of you for taking the time to join us in our very first virtual How She Does It. Please do take the time to complete our survey, as we're always looking for ways to improve. And don't forget, tag us in your social media postings with #GoogleHSDI so we can hear more from you. We hope that you all take care and stay safe.